Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This
Yeah.
time we're looking at Kamala Harris's book, The Truths We Hold, An American Journey.
Yeah.
Um, we've got a great summary and analysis of it right here,
Really
and
good one.
and we're going to be talking about how her early life
Mm.
and career choices really set the stage for her rise in American politics.
Yeah, it's interesting how her personal story
Mm-hmm.
is so interwoven with her professional path.
Yeah,
It's not just a chronological retelling.
right,
This book really digs into how her values
right.
and experiences directly shaped her approach to leadership.
It's not just a dry timeline, is it?
Oh,
It feels much more intentional
yeah.
than just here's what happened in my life.
Yeah.
For example, her upbringing in Oakland
Hmm.
and the influence of her parents who were active in the civil rights movement.
Yeah,
It's more than just background information.
it is.
It really sets the foundation for everything that follows.
Her parents weren't just present. They were deeply involved in fighting for social justice.
Right.
That context
Yeah.
helps us understand Harris's commitment to those same ideals
Uh-huh.
throughout her career.
Yeah.
It's like a through line.
It makes you wonder if her parents had had different priorities.
Oh, yeah.
Would she have ended up on such a different path?
Right.
It's almost like that early exposure
Uh-huh.
set her on a trajectory
Yeah.
towards a career in public service.
Well, it's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about abstract ideas either.
Right.
There's this striking anecdote about her mother, Shyamala Gopalan,
Okay.
a cancer researcher who instilled in Harris
Mm,
this sense of resilience
right.
and a drive to fight for what's right no matter the obstacles.
Powerful.
Yeah, it's a powerful example of how parents can shape their children's values.
It really makes you think about the impact of your own upbringing, doesn't it?
It does.
What values were you raised with and how have they guided your choices?
Now, shifting gears from her early influences to her career as a prosecutor,
Okay.
a period that often sparks debate.
Sure.
Harris's time as district attorney in San Francisco provides a fascinating look
Yeah.
at her smart-on-crime approach.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by this part of her career because it seems to challenge the conventional
Huh.
tough on crime narrative
Right.
that was so prevalent at the time.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on what made her approach so unique?
So instead of focusing solely on punishment,
Okay.
she prioritized reform and reducing recidivism.
Okay.
One striking example is her Back on Track reentry program,
Okay.
which aimed to help formerly incarcerated individuals successfully reintegrate into society.
So rather than simply locking people up and throwing away the key,
Right.
she was trying to address the underlying issues that contribute to crime.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
program offered job training, education, and support services,
Wow.
recognizing that simply punishing individuals without addressing the root causes
Uh-huh.
wouldn't solve the problem.
It sounds like a very forward-thinking approach.
Yeah.
Was there evidence that this program actually worked?
Interestingly, studies found that participants in Back on Track were significantly less likely to reoffend
Oh, wow.
compared to those who didn't participate.
Interesting.
This suggests that Harris's approach, while controversial to some,
Uh-huh.
may have had tangible positive impacts.
It really challenges us to think about the purpose of the criminal justice system, doesn't it?
It does.
Is it solely about punishment,
Right.
or should it also focus on rehabilitation and giving people a chance to turn their lives around?
That's a key question that Harris's approach raises.
Yeah.
And this focus on reform wasn't limited to her time as DA.
Okay.
It continued as she became California's Attorney General and then a U.S. Senator.
So this commitment to addressing systemic issues carried through different phases of her career?
Yeah.
What were some of the other areas that she focused on during those later roles?
Her work expanded to encompass a wide range of social justice issues. Healthcare access, LGBTQ plus rights, addressing educational disparities.
Mhm.
She was a champion on many fronts.
It sounds like she wasn't afraid to take on powerful interests to fight for those who are often marginalized or overlooked.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
One example that really stands out is her role in securing a $20 billion settlement
Wow.
for California homeowners
Okay.
who were victims of predatory lending practices during the mortgage crisis.
That's a huge victory.
Yeah.
It must have been a David versus Goliath situation taking on those big banks and financial institutions.
It absolutely was.
Yeah.
And it highlights the immense challenges that leaders like Harris face when pushing for systemic change,
Yeah.
especially when powerful forces are actively working against them.
Right.
It makes you realize the courage and persistence it takes to stand up for what's right.
It certainly wasn't an easy path, but it seems like those earlier experiences fighting for social justice
Yeah.
really prepared her for these bigger battles on the national stage.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
It's almost like her earlier roles were a training ground for the even bigger challenges
right.
and higher stakes she would face later in her career.
And those experiences clearly shaped her vision for America's future,
Right.
which is where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
So picking up right where we left off, Harris's vision for America's future,
Mm-hmm.
it's really where we see these threads of her career
Right.
really come together.
Yeah.
It's not just a collection of disparate policy positions.
Right.
It's a deeply interconnected
Yeah.
view of the challenges facing the country.
So are you saying that, like, her experiences fighting for criminal justice reform and
Huh.
economic equality, social justice, all feed into this broader vision?
Exactly. She tackles big issues.
Yeah.
Climate change,
Mm-hmm.
economic inequality, systemic racism.
Right.
But she doesn't see them as isolated problems.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, she emphasizes how they're intertwined
Mm.
and how tackling one
Yeah.
often requires addressing the others.
Yeah. That's such a crucial point because, it's easy to get caught up in thinking about these issues in silos.
Right.
But in reality, they're all connected.
Absolutely. For example,
Yeah.
she argues that climate change disproportionately impacts communities of color
Right.
and low-income communities,
Yeah.
highlighting the intersection of environmental justice
Uh-huh.
and economic inequality.
Right.
It's a more holistic way of thinking about solutions.
It reminds me of her work on the mortgage crisis.
Yeah,
That wasn't just about helping homeowners.
right.
It was about addressing a system that was rigged against certain groups.
Exactly. And that theme of systemic change
Uh-huh.
is central to her vision.
Yeah.
She argues that we need to move beyond Band-Aid solutions
Right.
and address the root causes of inequality and injustice.
It sounds like she's not just talking about tweaking existing policies,
Right.
but about fundamental shifts in how we approach these issues.
And she doesn't shy away from the tough questions. For example, she grapples with the legacy of slavery
Mm-hmm.
and its ongoing impact on systemic racism in America.
Wow.
It's a difficult
Yeah.
but necessary conversation to have.
And it's not just about diagnosing the problems, right?
Right.
She also offers a way forward.
Mm-hmm.
What does she propose as a path to achieving this vision
Yeah.
of a more just and equitable America?
Well, she emphasizes the power of collective action
Okay.
and the importance of engaging in the democratic process.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to just complain or sit on the sidelines.
Right.
She believes that change happens
Uh-huh.
when people come together and demand it.
So it's a call to action,
Exactly.
not just a philosophical treatise.
She wants people to vote,
Okay.
to organize, to
Okay.
hold their elected officials accountable.
Right.
She believes that everyone has a role to play,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of their background or position.
It's about empowering people to feel like they can actually make a difference, rather than just feeling helpless in the face of these massive challenges.
And that's such an important message,
Right.
especially in today's world where it can be easy to feel overwhelmed or cynical about politics.
Mm-hmm.
She reminds us that our democracy depends on active participation.
I think that resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel like your individual voice doesn't matter.
Right.
But she's saying that every voice, every vote, every action contributes to the larger movement for change.
Right. And she provides specific ways to get involved,
Okay.
from registering to vote
Mm-hmm.
and volunteering in your community
Right.
to supporting organizations that are working on the issues that you care about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding your lane
Right.
and making a difference where you can.
It's interesting how she connects this call to action back to her own personal journey.
Uh-huh.
It's like she's saying, look, I came from humble beginnings and I was able to make a difference.
Right.
You can too. It's a powerful message of hope and possibility. Yeah. And it challenges us to think about our own role.
And shaping the future, what can we each do
Right.
in our own way
Yeah.
to contribute to building a more just and equitable society?
That's a great question for our listeners to ponder.
It is.
We've explored her journey, her challenges, and her vision for America.
Right.
But now it's time to turn the lens inward.
That's a perfect segue into the final part of the book,
Okay.
where she issues a direct call to action for every American.
Right.
We'll unpack that in the next segment.
So we've spent this whole deep dive, exploring her life,
Yeah.
her career, her vision for America.
All right.
But as we wrap up our look at the truths we hold, it almost feels like the conversation's just getting started.
It's true. The book doesn't end with a neat conclusion
Right.
or a prescriptive list of solutions.
Right.
Instead, Harris leaves us with this powerful call to action,
Yeah.
a challenge to kind of carry the torch forward.
It feels very intentional, like she's saying, okay, I've shared my experiences. I've shared my struggles. I've shared what I've learned.
Right.
Now it's your turn.
Take what resonates with you
Yeah.
and run with it.
And that's kind of what elevates this book beyond just a typical memoir, doesn't it? It's not just about her individual story. It's about empowering others to become active participants in shaping the future.
Yeah.
But it also kind of begs the question of how do we ensure that the next generation
Oh, that's a good question.
is prepared to even tackle these challenges,
Yeah.
especially when the problems can feel so overwhelming.
It's a multifaceted challenge, no doubt, but I think one crucial element is education.
Okay.
Not just in the traditional sense,
Right.
but really in equipping young people with the critical skills and knowledge necessary to navigate an increasingly complex world.
So it's not just about, memorizing facts and figures. It's about teaching them how to analyze information,
Exactly.
how to question assumptions, how to think for themselves.
Precisely. It's about giving them the tools to discern truth from falsehood,
Right.
to understand the nuances of these complex issues, to form their own informed opinions.
And it makes me think back to, her mother
Right.
and how she instilled those values of resilience and critical thinking in her
Yeah.
from a young age.
Early on, yeah.
It's like those early lessons really laid the groundwork for her to kind of navigate all these challenges.
Absolutely. And it really highlights the ripple effect
Yeah.
that parents, educators, and mentors can have in shaping future generations.
Yeah.
It's about fostering this sense of civic responsibility, empathy, a willingness to challenge the status quo.
It's about empowering them to find their voices,
Exactly.
to speak up for what they believe in, and to be fearless in pursuing a more just and equitable world.
And that's where Harris's story, I think, becomes so inspiring.
Right.
Because it shows that change is possible.
Yeah.
Even when faced with these seemingly insurmountable obstacles. It's this reminder that each of us, regardless of background or position,
Yeah.
has the power to make a difference.
So as we conclude this deep dive,
Yes.
I think the biggest takeaway is this.
Okay.
The future isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
It's something we actively create.
We create it.
And her journey, her struggles, her triumphs, her call to action, it all serves as this really powerful reminder
It does.
that each of us has a role to play in shaping that future.
Absolutely.
So it's a message of hope, of empowerment, of possibility.
Right.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Kamala Harris's The Truths We Hold.
Great book.
We hope it sparks some reflection, some inspiration, maybe even a little action. Keep those conversations going.
Yes.
Keep asking those tough questions and keep believing in the power of your own voice.
Couldn't agree more.
Until next time, keep diving deep.